So there is a movie on Screambox called Project Wolf Hunting, and this is a film that Kaylee and I have started multiple times and never finished.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Not because it wasn't intriguing or good or anything. We started like 3-4 different times.
Yeah.
Got to like 10, 20 minutes in, and then would stop it, then wait a week or two or a month or whatever, and then start it over. And we finally sat down and watched it. I will admit, we did not rewatch the first like 10 or 15 minutes again for like the third time.
We didn't.
But we did finally finish it today. I was on a mission. We had Project Wolf Hunting.
Yes.
Was our project for the day.
Was our project.
Okay. So this is a Korean film about a cargo ship full of prisoners that are being transported from South Korea to the Philippines, or from the Philippines to South Korea. Or the other way around, I guess. Anyway, so, okay. This is a weird film because while I did like the movie, I should have loved the film. And there's just so many things that are like right there and just not properly utilized or followed through on. Number one, if you think blood is gore, then this is the goriest film of the year.
Yeah, so much blood.
There is so much blood spray in this film. Like, I would really like to know, if anybody can find this information, how much blood was used on this film, because it's got to be one of the highest volumes of blood per ounce I've ever seen in a film. Unfortunately, I am not one of the people who thinks blood is gore. I get that a lot of people, so like casual audiences would watch this, even some horror fans, and they would be like, this is brutal. And while I can see the argument that it is brutal, because there is a lot of people getting their heads bashed in and this and that, and blood is spraying, and all it is, it's kind of like gashes on the head, and they just spray blood. Or like blood sprays out their nose, or blood sprays out their chest, or blood sprays out their asshole, or whatever. It's all, every freaking part of the body spray blood every time they're hit, punched, shot, whatever. And at least 100 to 150 people die in this movie. Like, it is a high body count, and every one of them sprays in an exorbitant amount of blood. So that should be, this movie could have been so successful just on that alone, had they had, when the guys are, because so as far as the premise goes, really quick, they're being transported, and there's this thing on board. It's I don't want to say what it is. Doesn't matter. But it gets loose, and chaos ensues. And it's not just that's killing people, right? Everybody in this movie is a killer. Everybody in this movie is like pretty despicable, outside of a few people. And the cast is really large and super expendable, which I did like.
Yeah, I did too.
Because there's so many people
that just kind of
die shockingly. And you're like, oh, that's cool.
You expected them to be, kind of survivor type
major players
or whatever. Yeah. I thought that was cool as well. That the movie, I feel like it keeps you on your toes, because you just don't know when to expect somebody's death. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, because you don't really get an idea of who the main character is, because in the end there is kind of a main ending character, but throughout the film that character is really not explored all that much, nor their story is somewhat touched upon, and it's supposed to be like gut-wrenching and kind of tragic. And while it technically is, we just don't build anything up. That's my biggest gripe, my biggest second gripe, because my first gripe is that with the thing that's released on board, this thing is so powerful, and when it's attacking people are flying across the ship. People are being absolutely brutalized, and the film commits to it as far as like the blood goes. But it's like, this was the perfect film. This was the perfect opportunity for when this thing is smashing somebody, that their head would collapse in, that their chest would explode, that their arms could be torn off and they could be torn, apart. This film warranted the gruesome, graphic gore.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think people will be like, I don't know what you're talking about. This movie's super graphic. Yes, technically, but not the kind of gore I personally want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to see people torn apart. And we watched movies that were way more tame and way more downplayed than this, or like just yesterday.
Sure.
Right? Like Where the Devil Roams.
Right.
Or, well, that one specifically. And there's more graphic gore in that movie on screen than in this film, and only maybe 5 people die in that movie. And it's a very slower paced film. There's not a lot of focus or emphasis or, on the gore or the kills or anything. But when they happen, they're visceral and they are gross and they are nasty, and I love it. Mm-hmm. And here, this feels like a watered with blood kill, when it's bloody. Like this is going for that insanely gruesome kill.
Yeah.
It feels like it should be more graphic than it is. And I think for a lot of people, they might shy away or they're not used to it. So they're like, oh my God, this is graphic. But I feel like they pussed out on the kills, and it bums me out. I would have taken half the body count, take that money that you're going to spend on the gallons of blood, and put it towards effects, or even 10 deaths versus 150. I'd rather get 5 awesome on-screen deaths than 150 just blood sprays. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't do anything for me. And so you also have this problem with the film where the film is like action horror. Mm-hmm. It's going for like a Night Comes for Us or something. And I love those kinds of movies. So give me that, Asian martial arts versus, super powered things. I'm like your target audience. Get the gore, and then the story. The story is very disjointed. Mm-hmm. I even though we didn't rewatch it, that opening scene with the explosion.
Yeah.
I honestly, because it's been a little while, I don't even remember how that ties into this film at all, except for they were like trying to move them one other time, and now they're moving them in a different way. Yeah. And it didn't even there wasn't anything in the middle or the end that tied back to that moment. So I was like, am I missing something with what that opening even was? But the characters in this are so underdeveloped. The story is pretty generic as far as like what it is, but it could be so cool. You could do it's the Universal Soldier, right? We watched together, explores that story so much better.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I do think that the film was like really ambitious for what it was going for as far as that storyline goes. So I do think that it kind of was a bit too ambitious, and that some of it got lost in the execution of it, which is a shame, because I'm like you. I think that there was a lot of opportunities for like more on-screen gore, and also for the characters to be fleshed out a little bit more. I am interested though, like I was interested overall in what was happening, and I think that the way that it ends definitely sets up like sequel films, which would be really cool to watch, because it actually is quite intriguing, like where it leaves. And so I don't know, I think that they should have spent more time with the actual kills, and also with the characters that we were supposed to connect with, because I think that there's just too many characters that obviously, like we already said, just get killed off really quickly. So you're kind of like left not knowing who you're supposed to be invested in.
Yeah. So that's the film's biggest issue for me. Sorry, we're multitasking as always, trying to get as much done on this channel as possible. We're cooking dinner while recording reviews, because that's the kind of channel we are. We got to eat too, guys. It happens.
We do.
So yeah, I think it's a cool movie for people who like action horror, who wants something like Predator meets Universal Soldier meets Under Siege, because it's set on a boat. And it's got, I also don't like how the action was shot. It's too fast cut for me. And I would have liked to see that a little bit more refined and polished. I've been watching, so like something I don't cover on the channel, but I love is like martial arts movies, kung fu movies from, China and Japan and, all these countries. I love them. I grew up watching them. I still love watching them, Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen and all these movies, the Raid movies, obviously. So I've seen really wonderful choreographed fight sequences like in Ong Bak and there's so many great ones. And I just feel like this movie with the right director and a better polisher. I think the direction here is an issue. I don't think the director's talentless or anything. I think that the film is good. I just feel like it could be so great. Like, to me, this is a movie that could easily make it into my top 5 of the year. Had the kills been more graphic and the characters been more fleshed out and the storyline to be more impactful. Because there's like a villain that's introduced towards the end and I'm like, who's this guy now? And then who we end on as a character, I'm like, we barely even focused on this person the whole movie. And then a lot of characters we set up are just kind of offed without any kind of like send off at all to them. They almost just feel pointless, which that's the one aspect of the film I actually do like, because there isn't really a focus on a main character and people are so easily dispatched that you would never think would be. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the main villain.
Yeah.
And then they're killed and you're like, oh, okay, what? So that kind of stuff I respect the hell out of. I love it. I call for that kind of stuff all the time. But you can do that in a different way. You can do it in a way where the story is still being told efficiently. And I feel like here things are very muddled in like what the point of anything is. I really didn't understand why anyone was doing what they were doing, right? Why are these guys on the ship?
Yeah.
Right? Not the prisoners, the other guys who come onto the ship.
Yeah.
What their objective is, what the point of them even being there is, why they're trying to do that.
By them
like
too.
All that kind of stuff is like, is there parts of this movie missing? Like, it just feels so disjointed, almost like we said about The Haunting of the Queen Mary, where I'm like, this feels like a longer movie or TV series that was kind of chopped up and made into a coherent one film.
Yeah, it has that vibe too.
And I don't get it, man, because this is such a cool film, potentially. I still like it. I still recommend it to people who like, brutal Asian action horror. It just, God, it's a frustrating watch because I can see everything it could be.
Yeah.
And it just never hits those heights ever. There's a couple okay gore scenes, but never something. There's nothing memorable. No. There's nothing exciting. No. There's no character. But I would watch a sequel because of where it sets it up, and I was intrigued with the ending, and I was like, okay, like I'm willing to follow this.
Yeah.
But if you can change the things that I said and focus more on the story now that we know what we're doing, focus on that, up the gore, right? Then you've got a kick-ass movie. So I hope they make a sequel, and I hope they give me the movie that I was expecting here.
Yeah, I hope they make a sequel. I would watch one for sure.
Yeah. So check it out if that sounds interesting to you. I'm making it sound worse than it is. It's not. I think people will watch this and be like, I don't know what they're talking about. The fight scenes are cool and it's graphic and whatever. It's just right there. It's close. Just no cigar for me.
For you.
But
yeah.
Oh well. All right, guys. let us know if you watch it. It's on Screenbox. You should get that at some point because it's so cheap and there's a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Bye.
Bye.